Thank you, Dave. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the Canadian Football League and proud home of the Grey Cup. And the Grey Cup game, of course, here at McMahon Stadium in 2009. The Argos and Stamps going retro tonight. And the Stamps would prefer to dial back just a year to regain the form of last year's championship season. It is a warm night here in Calgary, and that wind could play a factor. Well, but for a 7-minute span in the second quarter last Saturday against Saskatchewan, the Argonauts have looked pretty good under their first-year head coach, Bart Andrus. And they certainly have started quickly in both games. Not the case for John Hufnagel and his Stampeders. And the coach says they have yet to play good team football, and they have certainly been a slow starting team out of the gate.
Without question, and it's retro weekend. When we look back to the 60s, that's why the players for both teams will be wearing the different helmets, the different jerseys. You know, back in the 60s, the Eastern Division was dominant over the Western Division, and all of a sudden, we may be seeing a little of that coming back. I know it's early.
Yes, it is.
But the East now 4-6 against the West. Last year, 6-26 all season. 4-2, I should say. 6-26 all season last year.
So you see the 60s style uniforms. Marcus Howe gets set to receive the opening kickoff, and this for the first time in 3 weeks for Calgary. They'll get their hands on the football first. The Argos actually won the toss, but have deferred because of the wind. So Justin Medlock has it on the tee, and we're underway, and it's a squib kick that will reach one of the back men, and they'll just eat the football. So a sputtering start for the Calgary Stampeders as Tristan Black covers the football. Henry Burris will lead Calgary out, trying to kickstart this Stampeder offense.
Yes, and he'll have Joffrey Reynolds, who has to see the football a little bit more. Just 16 carries in the backfield for Reynolds in the first 2 games. There's the receiving core. Ryan Thelwell in his first game last week is back in that starting receiving core. And there's the offensive line with Rob Lazio back at center for Tim O'Neill, missed last week.
This offense starts at their own 24. They've been 2 and out on their opening drive so far this year. And Burris will pull this down, and he'll be dropped at the 27-yard line. Let's set up this Argonaut defense Burris is working against.
Adriano Belli in the middle of that defensive line is creating some headlines. More on that later as this game goes on. There's Zeke Moreno in the middle of the linebacking core with Willie Pyle and Kevin Iben. And the secondary with Willie Middlebrooks and Jordan Younger out on the corners.
Starting lineups brought to you by Nissan, fan and proud sponsor of the CFL. It's 2nd and 7. Burris with time, and he has a receiver and a first down up at the 40-yard line. That's Kenyon Rambo, who had 8 in his first game last week in Winnipeg.
You know, this is probably one of the biggest first downs of 2008 for the Calgary Stampeders offensively. After Derek Watson fumbled and recovered his own fumble on the opening kickoff, you start to think, well, it's a little bit of the same in the start category for the Calgary Stampeders, but that first down could be big for their confidence.
Kevin Iben, the tackle. He's now number 2 all-time for the Toronto Argonauts, passing Don Moan. But it is a first down for the Stamps, who go no huddle and hand off to Joffrey Reynolds, who's brought down at the 46-yard line. Jason Pottinger, the Whitby native, in at linebacker with the stop.
77 yards in 2 games for Joffrey Reynolds. That's 16 carries, just not enough, and his average down at 4.8. But like John Hufnagel said yesterday, you got to have your offense on the field to get the running back the ball.
And they're trying to pick up the pace here again. Operating quickly, 2nd and 4 after 6 for Reynolds. 6 receivers out for Henry Burris, and the crosser is Nick Lewis. Drops the ball, and the Argos get on it. Kevin Iben with the recovery. Nick Lewis did not practice 2 games this week.
Was he down by contact?
That's what Henry Burris is suggesting. Let's find out.
It looked to me like this football came out late. Catch is made there. He has possession. Well, I don't know, that got blocked there. It's the left knee that we have to be able to see, and to see whether or not that knee touched before the ball came away from his hands.
No challenge flag. And the Argos are going to take over at their own 54. It's the 10th turnover already this year for the Calgary Stampeders. Play action, and it's flared out to Brian Crawford. And holding on there is Shannon James to make the tackle just across midfield.
A team that absolutely needs confidence and a little time of possession in their first drive is the Calgary Stampeders. I'm a little surprised that John Hufnagel early on here wouldn't take a look at that. I mean, whether or not the left knee was down, there was definitely contact made by Kevin Ivan. Left knee down now. Well, the ball was coming out, so he would have
wasted the challenge.
He would have lost the challenge.
It does appear that the coaches are a little reluctant with the challenge flags so far this season, but that was the right non-challenge by the Stamps head coach. Second and long, and Jamel Robertson, the leading rusher in the CFL, who has a Grey Cup ring, being on the 2001 Stampeders practice roster, and he'll be close to a first down.
Yeah, he's off to a tremendous start. And, you know, during the offseason, I asked a lot of Argo management, who's going to be your starting running back when you kick off 2009, and who are you going out to look for? And he said, we got everybody, to a man, said, we have our starting running back. It's Jamal Robertson. And this is why they felt so confident about him. Great start, 214 in 2 games, just under a 9-yard average.
And 174 yards of that has come in the first half of the 2 games. An early movement by left tackle Rob Murphy, who exploded out of the 3-point stance early. And that will negate the third down gamble.
Illegal procedure. Toronto number 56. 5-yard penalty. It remains third down.
One thing you know about Rob Murphy, through watching him as a BC Lion over the last few years, is that he will try and set the tempo. He's just a little ahead of the snap there.
Penalties an issue with the Argonauts last week. And Bart Andrus trying to put a lid on that in a hurry. The Argos, the most penalized team in the CFL through the opening 2 weeks. And we've got another penalty. And we should mention Steve Schmidt is in as the long snapper, not Randy Strachensky this week. And a couple were blocked in the preseason when he was snapping.
Illegal procedure. Toronto number 46. 5-yard penalty. Remains third down.
Back-to-back penalties. There's Jason Pottinger. And there's the man that will handle the long snap duties and will be a focus of attention tonight.
It is high school football in North Vancouver. Went to San Diego State, but gets a chance tonight.
A little wobbly, but it gets into the hands of Medlock. And that ball dropped. There is a flag for no yards, but a unsure start from the Stampeders. Nevertheless, no yards penalty. Burris will have better field position when we come back. Wendy's CFL on TSN Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona doing it right since 1939. So this team has not started well, and you don't like the way they've started tonight.
No, I don't. We're not even 5 minutes into this football game, and John Hufnagel's squad has fumbled the ball 3 times. They've recovered their own fumble twice. But it's that mental focus that has been the question here.
On the other side, the Argos have taken 25 yards of penalties with less than 5 minutes gone. And they try to get the running game established up the middle, and Adriano Belli will attempt to plug that up.
What Calgary fans are puzzled about when we talk about Joffrey Reynolds and his lack of touches is that this was the leading rusher in the Canadian Football League a year ago.
Continue to go no huddle, 2-yard gain for Joffrey Reynolds, so it's 2nd and 8. He goes in motion. 5 receivers to the wide side. Burris couldn't find anybody. Now does over the middle, a completion of Ryan Thelwell, who was his most reliable target last week in Winnipeg, as a big first down to the Argo 52.
Yeah, 6 big catches against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, over 100 yards. And what was most impressive about Ryan Thelwell is that was when they were behind. And he kept battling, trying to get his game speed back, and made some big catches. And some confident catches. This is another big one over the middle. That's the danger area. He knows he's going to get hit, and he makes at least one miss.
9-year veteran has 22 yards. And now the quick hitter Rambo with the catch. And immediately taken down by the corner, Willie Middlebrooks. 7 for Rambo.
Good pepper on that throw from Henry Burris, and he got it there to Rambo in a hurry. That's the type of catches we're used to seeing, and this is for tempo, the hurry up. Try and get their offense going in a little tempo.
7 for Rambo, 2nd and 3. And it's Copeland with the catch, and he's taken down quickly. Lynn J. Shell with the tackle at the 41. Looks like it's enough for a Calgary first down.
You don't often see hurry up this early in a game, or the plays being called on the line of scrimmage. Calgary Stampeders want to try and get some confidence offensively, and what it does for George Cortez, the offensive coordinator, is simplifies the defense a little bit. They have to line up quickly, and it may get some rhythm, some tempo for their offense.
They were down 14-0 to Montreal before their 3rd offensive play. Last week, trailing 10-0 before their 3rd offensive play. Trying to change it tonight. Here's Lewis. 2nd touch of the ball for Nick Lewis, and he holds on and has another stamp first down to the Toronto 25.
That's a perfect slot back screen to Nick Lewis. If you guys go ahead and run it down there, that's perfect. Watch out. Now hold it here. Look at that. Look at the blocking set up. One right here, and one over here, and a nice running lane for Nick Lewis right down the middle. That's textbook blocking on the slot back screen.
Pre-game, we heard Henry Burris talk about being more assertive. We're seeing it on this drive. Now the long out, and Copeland's got that, and Jason Shivers will take him out at the 15.
Okay, now this is a good sign for the Calgary offense, because the Kenyon Rambo catch, the Jermaine Copeland catch, the blocking downfield, those are all little things, little fundamentals that now it seems like this Calgary offense is starting to do correctly. And this has been their problem, just lack of focus and forgetting about the fundamentals. It's a simple game when you break it down. Catch it and run with it.
They mark Copeland at the 17. Burris looks sharp out of the gate. And 2nd and 2. And a handoff up the middle. And to get to the 15-yard line.
The offensive line, I had a long conversation with Henry Burris, and I asked him how the week of practice went. And he talked about the offensive line. He said, you know, I watched those guys, and they are not happy. These guys wanted to come out and establish something. They wanted to come out and be aggressive. Rob Lazio's back in there, and they were spitting fire all week.
Interesting you mentioned that. It's the first time the Stamps offensive line that played in the Grey Cup is together as a unit this year.
That's right. Jesse Newman did not play in game 1. Neither did Jeff Pilon. And then Rob Lazio last week was out because Tim O'Neill came in. He had an elbow injury, and Tim O'Neill came in. So you're right. This is the starting group. It started in that Grey Cup game, and it's the starting group that are a little angry at this point. 0-2 can do that to you.
3rd down and less than a yard. The big team comes on as Teo Johnson checks in. And the Stamps gambling deep in Argo territory. And Burris will have it easily as he follows the veteran, Rob Lazio, back in the lineup. Elbow locked up mysteriously last week, and he was unable to go in Winnipeg.
John Hufnagel with 6:39 left in this first quarter has got to feel that this is already a win, because he and Henry Burris both said that they didn't necessarily need to score on the first drive. They just needed to get some time of possession, keep the offense on the field, and they've done that in this first quarter.
This the 9th play of the drive for Calgary, their 2nd possession of the game. 4 receivers wide side, and Burris flushed. Now dumps it off to the goal line, and Joffrey Reynolds ruled out at the 1.
Pat Dunnigan said it before the game. when asked about what's wrong with the Stamps, said it starts at quarterback, that Henry Burris has just not been the Henry Burris we were used to seeing a year ago. It looks like his confidence is back. See how he's scrambling with his eyes down the field? Rather than just run out there crazy like he did in the first couple of games, his eyes are up, drops it off, safe pass, nice decision.
And now the Stamps looking at 1st and goal from the 1. And it is Reynolds. Touchdown, Calgary. An impressive touchdown march. And the Stamps have their first quarter touchdown of 2009.
And that's a big one. That is a very, very important drive for this football team to get them back on track offensively. Some tough catches by the receivers, something they haven't been doing over the last 2 weeks. Some running game from Joffrey Reynolds, who finishes off the drive, but they sustained a long drive, Chris.
Second touchdown of the year for Reynolds. And the Stamps take the early lead. Maybe you could say the Stamps are breathing a little easier after a 10-play, 75-yard drive and a first quarter touchdown capped by Joffrey Reynolds' plunge into the end zone.
Without question, that is good for their psyche. I mean, this is a drive 6 for 6. Henry Burris was perfect, played with confidence, scrambled with his eyes, bought some time, and sprinkled in some run.
DeAngelis kicks it off. And it's Robertson on the return, slowed up, and he's dropped before he reaches the 25 as Dwayne Carpenter had first contact downfield. First time the Argos have trailed in the first quarter this season. Here's their starting offense.
Leading rusher in the backfield so far, 214 yards coming in for Jamal Robertson. The leading receiver for the Argos after 2 is Reggie McNeil on the outside, and an offensive line with Rob Murphy, Dominic Picard brought in a new attitude to the big boys up front.
They start at their 22-yard line, and Robertson runs right into Malik Jackson, who gets his first start at defensive end.
That is called gap cancellation. And Malik Jackson canceled the gap. Newcomer up on that D-line, first start for him. Number 49 makes a big play. Binjo will move to 3 different positions in this one tonight. There's Trey Blackman trying to find his way. The rookie at middle linebacker. Talk about rookies, Ronnie Amati and Devonzo Tate, rookie halfbacks.
Well, it'll be fun to watch Labinjo, who grew up an Argo fan, move around. He's a defensive end here. Joseph puts it in the air, and it's caught. What a catch by Arlen Bruce, who looked like he had a little trouble locating it, but it dropped right into his hands.
Well, he could either win an Oscar.
There is a penalty in the Argo backfield.
He could either win an Oscar for selling the fact that he didn't find the football.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Calgary number 77. 15 yards at the end of the play, first down.
The newcomer and defensive tackle, Tom Johnson.
Well, let's just take a look at the play first, because at the end of this play, Arlen Bruce was so cool, turning, and he either knew it was there the whole time and was a great actor, or he just caught it at the last second, just saw it at the last second. And here's your penalty, Tom Johnson. Get pushing anybody around the quarterback, good chance you're going to get called.
So Johnson in his first start adds 15 to the 38-yard pickup by Bruce, and the Argos are in business at the Calgary 37. Fake to Robertson, and the pass in the flat skips short of the target, Arlen Bruce.
Ronnie Amati, the halfback, was coming off the edge, and he really got in the throwing lane of Kerry Joseph, so he couldn't get the football out there to Arlen Bruce, and the Toronto Argonauts can get a little bit more production out of Arlen Bruce, and we'll see how he does against these young halfbacks. You just saw Amati, Devonzo Tate, I mentioned. That's a veteran receiver of 8 years now. He's matched up against 2 young guys.
92 catches last year, quiet last week against the Rough Riders with just 3. 2nd and 10. Here comes the blitz. Joseph has an open man and a first down and another late flag in the Argos backfield.
Going against Calgary, I think, as well. Joseph was knocked down after he threw the football.
So Jamal Robertson, a first down catch, and now penalties an issue for
Major
Calgary.
foul, roughing the passer. Calgary number 42. Half the distance to the goal line at the end of the play. First down.
That's the Toronto native, Mike Labinjo.
Mike Labinjo inside this time, gets his helmet knocked right off and continues and hits Joseph right in the back.
So back-to-back 15-yarders. These are the two most penalized teams through the first 2 weeks of CFL play. You just saw Labinjo move back in at defensive tackle. He'll play 3 different positions tonight on that Stamp defensive line. 1st and 10. Joseph with time. Looks to the end zone. Jump ball incomplete. And the Argos looking for another flag. Andre Talbot in his first game of 2009, unable to bring it down.
No, this is great coverage by Ronnie Amati, young halfback who is following Talbot to that corner, but he uses patience. Watch, he sees Talbot, waits for him to react, then turns to the football and puts his hands up. Therefore, he doesn't get a screening call by putting his hands in front of Talbot, but not looking back. You see how he turns, faces the ball? No penalty. That's just great defense.
Talbot tore a muscle in his back in the first preseason game. That's why he's late returning. Pressure on. That ball caught by Talbot. Well short of the first down, right in front of the goalposts, and Talbot's shaken up on the play.
Well, he really had to move quickly and get up a little bit to get that bullet over the middle. Kerry Joseph had to get rid of it quickly because Dwayne Carpenter was coming on a blitz. So he threw it hot, and Talbot really had to get to it in a hurry. He made a quick move and then had to jump, and he might have re-injured himself.
Talbot, we talked to yesterday, so excited about this Argonaut offense.
See the blitz coming from the right. That's why Joseph had to get rid of it. But you see Talbot had to make a quick movement, leave his feet. And he may have fallen on the football as well. But I thought it looked by his body language that he was hurt as he was catching it. So it was the quick move. Something happened on the quick move to get up. Look at his ankle.
So maybe the way he came down after climbing the ladder to make the reception. And while Talbot gets attention, we'll step out. It'll be 3rd and 5 Argos when we come back. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSA is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. No weight on that ankle for Andre Talbot, who manages to get back in the lineup. Doesn't make it through the first quarter. After that catch that should make this a chip shot for Justin Medlock, who was 3 for 3 last week in Saskatchewan. The 15-yard line. And the Argos are on the scoreboard with 3:03 remaining in the opening quarter. It's 7-3 Stampeders. Let's join Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. The difference between Kerry Joseph of 2009 and the Kerry Joseph of last year, in his own words, night and day. Just looking at his passing yards after 2 games this year compared to last year, he has twice as many. And the difference in team touchdowns, incredible. 6 touchdown passes compared to none 2 years ago. Now, Joseph says the difference is communication and the presentation of the offense. He says he knows exactly what Peter Andrews wants, which makes it easier for him to execute. And perhaps the most important difference, Joseph says he's enjoying the game again.
You know, it's a game, it's your profession, you take it very seriously, you're focused, but you still have to have fun. It still is a game, and you still have to go out and enjoy yourself and have some fun. And when you do that, you play a little more loose. The ball comes out of your hand. You're not squeezing it quite as tight. Joseph is playing better because of it, and he and Bart Andrus are a nice match.
Kerry Joseph with an even better start than he did in his most outstanding player year of 2007. Derek Watson and Howell are deep, and this is Watson falling on it at the 30, gets up, and there's a crease. Derek Watson thunders across midfield. And a breakdown on the cover team for the Argos gives Watson a big return.
I think the Argos may have thought that Watson was down by contact, because he fumbles with the ball again. Remember, he dropped the opening kickoff. He goes down, but he's not touched till after he gets up. Now he's down, he gets up, there he's touched. Now he's back on his feet, so he's not down by contact and can continue to run.
34 yards on the return. And that sets up Burris. 1st and 10 at the Argo 40. Here comes the pressure, and Burris gets it away and has a completion. Kenyon Ramble with the catch, and Henry Burris 9 for 9 out of the gate.
Again, Henry Burris with great composure in there, because he had blitz coming right up at him. There's Burris in the shotgun, and I believe it was Kevin Huntley coming clean through the middle, but he just buys himself a little more time by sliding to the right, and he hits an open Kenyon Ramble.
Jordan Younger was there in coverage for the Argos, but it is a 1st down. Kenyon Rambo, who led the CFL in receiving last year, 100 catches and just under 1,500 yards. Reynolds, he'll try the right side, and he gets hog-tied again. Kevin Ivan, the tackle at the 20. 6 more for Joffrey Reynolds.
I just think this is a very different Henry Burris in the first 2 games, Chris. He looks like after that 9-play drive is settled back into a comfort zone. I saw him last night, had a long talk with him. He had his pregame meal and said he feels ready, as focused as he's been.
2nd and 4. They fake it to Reynolds. Burris takes off. He's got a 1st down and hits the deck at the 10. And Will Poole and Burris got tangled up. Not sure if there's a penalty marker on the play, but seen a few of those exchanges already.
I mentioned the pregame meal because first 2 games in the season, Henry Burris changed his routine from 2008. He used to go to the same restaurant, have the same meal before every game in 2008, and that was a pretty successful year for him. He changed that up, and then after 0-2 said, I'm going right back to it. It looks better already.
1st down, big pressure, and Lynn J. Shell gets to Henry Burris back near the 20. Halfback blitz, and the Argos have their 1st sack of the night.
And this time, Lynn J. Shell is smart when he gets to the quarterback. Lynn J. Shell, along with Adrian O'Belly, he's going to come from the left side of your screen. We're fined this past week by the CFL because of, for Lynn J. Shell, I hit on the quarterback where he led with his head. Smarter that time. Just went and made a nice tackle on Burris. He's learned.
And he just handed Henry Burris an 8-yard loss.
Timeout, Calgary.
And the Stamps had a little confusion in the huddle, so Henry Burris burns the timeout.
You can just see the intensity of this game is a little different. You know, it's so early in the season, and yet the importance for the Calgary Stampeders, they do not want to drop to 0-3.
And Henry heated up there on the sidelines. George Cortez tried to just settle him down, so the game face is firmly on tonight.
No one was more frustrated than Henry Burris, and he wasn't pointing fingers at all. He was saying over the 2 weeks that everyone were taking their turns with mistakes and fundamentals, and You know, the offense, to me, was a lack of focus. The defense may be a different issue.
Should be the final play of this first quarter. Burris with time. That ball seemed to slip out of his hand, and it's incomplete. First incompletion on the final play of the first quarter, with Calgary in the lead. First quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Big question coming in was the Calgary Stampeders, whether they were complacent over the first 2 weeks. Huffnagel said they needed some time of possession in the first quarter. They got that time of possession. 10-14 for the Calgary Stampeders, and to me, that's a big, big win for the Stamps at 0-2 coming in to get what the coach needed. Time of possession. Not necessarily a lot of points, just time of possession.
Well, they were last in time of possession the first 2 weeks. Do you think hurry up helps that?
I think it got him into a rhythm early on. It helped in that 9-play drive that ended up in the touchdown. And Henry Burris looks more comfortable. He's got that fire in his belly. I think this is a different Calgary Stampeder team than we saw in week 1 and 2.
Argos with the leading rusher in the CFL, but not much of a rush game in that opening quarter. And here is Sandro DeAngelis getting set for a 26-yard attempt. Brett Ralph the holder. And DeAngelis puts that through. And Calgary has a 10-3 lead. Well, it is retro night here in Calgary, and we didn't get the fancy outfits that we saw last night.
No, we didn't.
Well, we did our research, didn't we?
We did. In 1967, Canada's centennial, there's one of the originals. Some very historic moments in the 60s for this country. Expo 67 in Montreal.
Notice the 5-cent stamp.
The opening of the Trans-Canada Highway from Victoria to St. John's, Newfoundland in 62. And maybe the most important, up until 65, it was the Union flag, the British flag, that Canada would wave. And in 65, we adopted the maple leaf.
Well, Matt Dunnigan has inspired a nation. Fans, in the spirit of things.
Interesting, in the 60s, some of those events and moments that has continued to bring this country together like the Canadian Football League does.
Now we'll talk about the 60s for these two particular teams as the night goes on. Here's Jamel Robertson, and he is stuck across the 35-yard line. Let's go to the Calgary sideline, and here again, Jermaine Franklin.
I think Jermaine Franklin was going to tell us we'll get that mic fixed up, but Barrick Neely warming up. You saw, remember Henry Burris just before the end of the first quarter had that pass. It looked like he slipped out of his hands, but possibly hit his thumb or something. We'll get more from Jermaine Franklin in a moment. Copeland, of course, is playing receiver at the time, so he might not be able to help us with that.
Darian Durant had a similar problem after an injury in practice and played through a sore thumb last week in Toronto. But right now, Kerry Joseph is at the controls. Did not play against Calgary last year. It was Cody Pickett, and that pass is knocked down.
A little surprised that Bart Andrus hasn't gone to a little more run for the Toronto Argonauts because that's really been their staple. Get Jamal Robertson set up. They come into the league 135 a game rushing.
And also Stampeders last in run defense.
And we haven't seen the Wildcat formation, something that Bart Andrus ran last week with great success. We haven't seen it yet.
2nd and 10. Good protection, open man, Reggie McNeil to catch. Brandon Brown on the tackle, and it will be short of the first down at the Stampeder 40.
The only way that check down throw to Reggie McNeil is going to work in 2nd and long yardage is if Kerry Joseph gets him the football quickly, because he may have a chance then to turn around, have a second to make a guy miss, make a move in the open field. If you wait too long on that throw on 2nd and long, you don't have much chance to convert.
So Medlock on to punt, and Marcus Howell is back. And off the side of his foot. And that goes out at the 42. There will be a flag on the play. The Stamps likely to decline and take good field position at that 42-yard line. Medlock lost the job to start the season to Eddie Johnson, who is a punter first, place kicker second. Medlock a place kicker first, punter second. Didn't do a bad job in his debut last week, but just 26 yards there. As the Stampeders weigh their options. And it looks like they're going to decline because the offense already out in the field.
And Henry Burris has his helmet on talking to George Cortez.
Off out of bounds. Toronto. Penalties decline. First down.
So it looks like Burris will be okay. He'll be at the controls when we come back. No better player for the Stamps in the 60s than the thumper Wayne Harris, standing by with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Legendary linebacker Wayne Harris of the Calgary Stampeders. Wayne, what was it like playing for the Stamps in the 60s?
Well, I came in here on a coaching change in 1960, and it was I didn't know where Canada was. I knew it was to the north. I came up here. I was late reporting, but I made it, and I missed 1 week of training camp, but it was fun.
Wayne, you were an 8-time All-Star, 2-time Most Outstanding Player, but I'm assuming the biggest part of your career was winning that Grey Cup in '71. What was that like for you?
Oh, no doubt about it, because Calgary hadn't had a winner. They have some close teams to it, but that was '49, and it was just super. Everything.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
Of course, this was the matchup in '71, and a memorable 1971 Grey Cup indeed.
These two teams in the 60s played each other 9 times. You only played across the country once back then. Toronto had the edge by just 1 game, 5-4 in those 9 games. But the Calgary Stampeders got close a few times in the 60s. Lost to Ottawa, 68 in the Grey Cup.
They had some explosive offenses. Right now, 2nd and 10 from the Argo 52. And Burris on a roll. And a pump. Nobody there. He'll race out and hit the dirt at the 50, well short of the first down. So it'll be a kicking situation for Calgary.
Some great football players for the Calgary Stampeders throughout the 60s. When you think of leaders in the CFL, Herm Harrison, 68, Terry Evanson, receiving, rushing. Good rushing teams back then. 4 years in the 60s that they had the leading rusher in the CFL.
And then it changed in the late 60s when Peter Lisk and Jerry Keeling made it one of the most explosive passing teams. I was reminded today, I didn't remember that Peter Lisk was also a Toronto Argonaut.
Yeah.
So Burke Dales kicks it into the wind. And Marlon Bruce lets it hit the carpet, and he'll draw the 5-yard no yards penalty. Early in this second quarter, a 34-yard punt by Dales. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. This is our beer. 10-3 Stampeders. Argos get ready to scrimmage the football, but let's do some reminiscing about the double blue.
A little tougher for them through the 60s.
Yeah, there was some lean years, those 6 consecutive last place finishes, but no shortage of star power.
No, you see Dave Mann was the leading receiver in 1960. Rushing was tough, though. There was a guy by the name of George Reed later on that showed up on the scene that made it pretty tough to win the rushing title. And they did have their stars. They, not a real successful team. They had their moments.
There's Kerry Joseph looking downfield, and he has a receiver. Big hit on the play, but a catch by Matt Lambros. A little slow to get up. Lambros decked on the play by the safety, Milton Collins, but the kid from Calgary has a catch he may or may not remember.
He may have to look at the film to see it, but Kerry Joseph puts air onto this, and Matt Lambros has to go to his inside shoulder. That's why he exposes himself to the big hit from Milton Collins. And they don't get any bigger.
I gave you the wrong name.
Scott.
It's Tyler
Yeah,
Scott.
Yep.
Great catch, but
it was Tyler Scott.
Punishing hit.
2 catches in the first 2 games for Scott.
So suddenly the Argos, who are deep at Canadian receiver, are starting to fall short here. First Andre Talbot, who's nursing an ankle, and Tyler Scott will have a few cobwebs after that jolt from Milton Collins, who very quickly is establishing himself as a safety to be reckoned with in this league.
Well, he's got great range, and he will hit you when he gets there. And you can see on the left of your screen here. This is him. Right? Look at him saying, "Go ahead, come across the middle. Let me show you what will happen if you do that." He's got that look to him, doesn't he? And he's also got an interception for the Stamps. Only have 2 after 2 games. But it was the way that Tyler Scott had to, show great body control to move back to the inside to make what was a real tough catch. He exposes himself because of it, takes that hit for his teammates. Yeah, but he's up and he's okay. That's great.
Second-year receiver had his first CFL touchdown last week, as did Mike Bradwell. And in week 1, another Canuck receiver, Matt Lambros, had his first CFL touchdown. So that Canadian receiving corps has made an early impact, and that a 27-yard catch and a first down at the 45. And back to the air, a pass is dropped, incomplete. And intended for James Robinson. And again, we're not seeing a whole lot of Jamal Robertson.
No, we're not. And against the defense that has really struggled against the run, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, they're giving up 160 per game along the ground, the Calgary defense. And yet, no Wildcat yet. And very little Jamal Robertson.
2nd and 10. Stamps sent an extra man. He was picked up, and a lunging catch there on the sidelines, and a good one by Richie McNeil. Jock Climbey mentioned the drops last week, but that's a clutch first down catch of 11 yards for McNeil.
And great protection for Kerry Joseph. He's going to get Crawford right there. He's going to get Jamal Robertson right there. Watch the protection on the blitz pickup. You got to get your backs involved. Jamal Robertson's got his guy. Crawford's got his guy. Kerry Joseph has a chance to get it out there.
So it's a first down just across midfield for the Argos, and this is Robertson. He'll try the left side, and Robertson skips through a tackle. And with a straight arm to the 40-yard line, that's why Jamal Robertson was the leading running back going into week 3. There is a penalty marker in the Calgary secondary, and it's going against the Stampeders.
I asked Rob Murphy about Jamal Robertson.
Major foul, face mask, Calgary number 33. 15 yards at the end of the play, first down.
That's Dwight Anderson. That's the 3rd major foul against the Stamps in this first half.
Yeah, that's something that I'm sure Huff Nagel will talk about at halftime. But Rob Murphy talked about Jamal Robertson, and he said that he actually knew Jamal quite well because they were teammates when Rob Murphy was with the San Francisco 49ers. Garrison Hurst was the starting running back in San Francisco at the time, but he loved Jamal Robertson then. So this guy's going to be a good player.
Just picked up 14, and now Bruce in the flat, and he's pushed out after a short gain at the 21.
Because I've got to believe the relationship, and Chris Schultz back in the studio would know this better than anybody, but the relationship between your running back and your quarterback and the O-line is a very important one. Quarterback goes without saying, but even with the running back, because if you like the guy and you want to open up those holes and it's real and sincere, it's that much better. And Rob Murphy loves Jamal Robertson.
And a lot of people in that Toronto offense are saying it all starts with a different and more intense attitude on that front 5. That pass knocked down, batted down by Odell Willis, and it will be 3rd down Toronto.
Toronto's had a couple of opportunities and really could be ahead in this game because they've been down in the scoring range a couple of times now and had to settle for field goal attempts. So the Calgary defense, which has struggled a little bit, that is a good knockdown. To get that far away from the line of scrimmage is tough. Del Willis, but his defense is bent a little bit, but it's hanging in there in the red zone.
I believe that's the 2nd knockdown of the game for Willis, and Medlock on to try one from 28. Ivan puts it down, and Medlock puts it through. So the lead for the Stampeders is 4. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Bart Andrus has seen his team be better in the 2nd quarter. Couldn't be worse than in the first 2 weeks. They were outscored 40-3 in the 2nd quarter by the Hamilton Ticats and Saskatchewan Roughriders in the opening 2 weeks. Down by 4 here as Joffrey Reynolds fields the long kickoff inside his own goal line. And Brian Crawford tracks him down before he reaches the 15. Crawford tied for the lead in special team tackles coming into this game, has one there.
This is a better Toronto Argonaut football team, I believe, Chris, and when you take a look at their first 2 games, they gave out this defense 33 points over 7.5 quarters, 30 points, it's actually 23 points over 7.5 quarters, 30 points in that 7.5 minutes last week versus Saskatchewan.
And I found it a little tough to put that on the defense because the Argo offense in that 2nd quarter never got across, what, the 30-yard line?
Yeah, Peter Kuharchuk, the defensive coordinator in his 2nd year in the CFL. First year in Toronto, was in BC back in the early 90s. 10 years in NFL Europe. That's how Bart Andrus knows him. But you're right, it wasn't really the defense. They had that horrific 7.5 minutes last week. And other than that, this team has been vastly improved from 2008. Producing more yards offensively. Jermaine Franklin talked about Kerry Joseph playing better on offense and his numbers, how they've improved. A defense that looks solid. And other than penalties and turnovers in that 7.5 minutes, this is a better Argo football team.
Matt Lambros injured on that last kickoff. And the Calgary kid gets attention. He's 85.
Tries to cut back, and you can see his ankle or his left knee just sort of buckled on him.
Got tangled up with Mark Kalist. Lambros, whose dad was a linebacker with the Eskimos back in the early 70s. One of those young Canadian running backs. But I'm very impressed with Bart Andrus. He, one of his comments was, "I'm a good teacher, and I'm a good learner, and maybe you have to be both, or a good learner to be a good teacher." And it's the Argos' feedback to us is how open he is to suggestions, and how quickly he has gained the respect of this team.
Well, you gain respect sometimes, Chris, when you give respect too, and I think that's one of the things like Mark Trestman has done in Montreal, coming from the National Football League, and with Kerry Joseph getting his passing arm worked on a bit there, but Bart Andrus coming up and respecting the quality of the Canadian Football League, the quality of the athlete, and then trusting some of his veterans to help him learn the game. I remember him telling me that when he first looked at the motion that the rules allow in the CFL, he was overwhelmed at first. He looked at it and said, "Wow, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this." Then he got a hold of it, watched a lot of film, and said, "This is kind of interesting." And then he all of a sudden saw, yeah, we can really, this is an offensive league with that kind of motion.
Called it offensive heaven yesterday. Right now, Calgary goes to the offensive, starting at their 14. Reynolds the lone setback. Short drop, and there's Kenyon Rambo eased out by Willie Middlebrooks. Well, the CFL on TSN continues tomorrow. Doubleheader of action. Couple of real good games. Game 1, the Alouettes take on the Rough Riders at Mosaic. Can't wait for that. And Game 2, Mike Kelly's Blue Bombers against the Tiger Cats, coming off that impressive win in Vancouver last week. Live coverage kicks off 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific.
The second game will be handled internally.
Second down throw. Fans want a call. Bruce wants a call.
I don't think so.
Willie Pyle was in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't think so. You know, I think Willie Pyle got a good jump on this ball. And the question, I think the Calgary fans, and the reason they're wondering, it's to the left of your screen, folks. It's going to see Willie Pyle show up, and then he goes out of your screen, and here he comes again. Now, that left hand, you see the left hand on Nick Lewis's back, that never grabs him, never gets an advantage with the left hand, and he just lets it sit there, and because of that, he doesn't draw the flag. That's good coverage.
And now maybe the momentum changes. Argos have the wind in the second quarter. They forced Calgary into 2 consecutive 2-and-outs. There is a marker on the play as Bruce fields it and crosses the Argo 50-yard line down to the 45. Ooh. And this is an important penalty.
What is the penalty?
Does Calgary get a first down off a penalty? No, it's going to be a Stampeder procedure call that will be declined by Toronto.
Real good field position for the Argos, so they will decline this. That was anytime you get the football to start a possession, you can see Bart Andrews trying to decline it.
Legal procedure, Calgary number 30. That penalty is declined. First down.
Anytime you get a possession that can start on the defensive side of midfield, you want to take it.
Trey Blackman moved quickly, took Kerry Joseph back to work. Mentioned did not play in the 2 games last year against the Stampeders, as Cody Pickett got both starts, and neither memorable for the Argos, as Calgary outscored Toronto 78-20 in the 2 games last year. From the 45, the fake to Robertson, dumped off to Crawford, and Shannon James with the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. Great play by the 2-time top defensive player in Calgary.
Well, Shannon James spies this and moves quickly. He's just out of your screen to the top of the picture, and then he lines up right over Kerry Joseph, flies to Crawford. That's his man. Calgary Stampeders like to play a lot of man-to-man. That means their linebackers, and Shannon James is one of them, will cover the backs out of the backfield.
Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. 3 receivers to the near side. Pressure on Joseph, who gets away. Open man, Arlen Bruce, and closing in a big hurry. Dwight Anderson. They'll mark it close to the first down, around the 34, and this may require a measurement.
Pretty big block by Jonta Woodard, the right tackle, to allow Joseph a little more time to get it to Bruce. And he doesn't quit on the play.
And it is just enough for first down.
You see he gets in trouble here, and then Woodard, you see right there, just to the right of your screen, Jonta Woodard kept fighting. He was the right tackle, kept all the way back to the left side of the formation, made a big block.
Out of that Idaho formation, now the split, and they go Wildcat first time tonight. And it's Robertson, and Stampeders not fooled at all. Penalty markers down on the play. And dropped for a loss. Let's find out what the penalty's all about. That's the first time the Argos have gone Wildcat without success so far this season.
Times they have run it, they have got an average of 15 yards in the Wildcat formation.
May have been a reason why it wasn't successful here. Penalty is against the Stampeders.
Offside. Calgary 98. 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
That's Odell Willis.
Wildcat basically from the National Football League. New rule in the CFL that the quarterback does not have to take the ball from center, does not have to line up to receive the ball from center anymore. He can become a receiver, and they've done it a little bit.
Argo's so well tailored for that, with guys like Reggie McNeil who can throw the ball, and Kerry Joseph who can be explosive, maybe even as a receiver. Second down, open man, and a catch made. Marlon Bruce breaks a tackle and is down to the 5-yard line.
Well, you have to have strong hands when you're coming across the middle on a route like that, because Kerry Joseph, he zings this baby, and Arlon Bruce stabs it. I mean, sometimes you cuddle it in, right? There's Arlon Bruce coming right through the middle and change motion. He ends up being the wide receiver. There's the in route, and he stabs that football with real strong hands over the middle.
Two-time all-CFL receiver, having his best game of this early campaign. First and goal from the 5. Robertson in motion. Joseph looking that way, and it's almost picked off. Robertson, the intended receiver. Brandon Browner with the breakup.
Most teams game plan to go away from Brandon Browner. He usually plays that left corner, that short side corner. And he gets a great jump there, and you're right, Chris, really should have had the interception. Looked like he might have just stumbled before the ball arrived, or he does go the other way with it.
Had an interception for a touchdown in 2007 against the Argos. Argos were stopped deep.
Hey, Kerry Joseph's got to call a timeout. He doesn't have the right personnel on the field.
And so Joseph heads to the sidelines and gives you an opportunity to illustrate the Wildcat formation.
Yeah, here's the Wildcat. This is the normal formation with quarterback and a receiver will come out of the backfield like Arlon Bruce and line up. The quarterback gets the snap from center. In the Wildcat, they basically change positions, and Jamal Robertson becomes the guy who'll get the ball from center. The quarterback goes and becomes a receiver. Now with Robertson with the ball immediately, he can go in any direction he wants right off the snap of the ball. It eliminates an exchange. Basically, that's the Wildcat offense, and Bart Andrews has had success with it so far this year.
So many variations and so many headaches for opposing defensive coordinators. Now second and goal from the 5. 2 backs in. Time for Joseph, and now running out. Odell Willis has got him back at the 19. First stamp sack of the night, their 3rd of the year.
Protection eventually breaks down. It looked like Kerry Joseph had time initially. Once again, this offense bogs down a little bit in the red zone. Odell Willis may be the answer at that rush end for the Calgary Stampeders, who have been looking for a guy who can be dominant out there.
So Medlock from the 25. And he puts it through again, and it's a 1-point game with 4:03 remaining in this first half. Some missed opportunities, though, by the Argonauts, and 2 short field goals.
Yeah, yeah, the 2 short ones, and they've also kicked. I count at least 3 times they've been down inside the 30-yard line and had to settle for the field goal. So that's what Bart Andrews is talking about. That's what they'll talk about at halftime. They'll go in there and talk about their red zone production.
And on the other sideline, John Huffnagel has to be feeling a little bit better. In the lead up to the game, he said, we need to get the quarterback to the ground and contain Kerry Joseph. And they've done a better job of it so far tonight.
They have, but his challenge and what he will likely talk about at halftime is some of those penalties on defense that are extending drives. Again, a discipline issue. Both these coaches have had to deal a little bit with that discipline over the first 2 weeks and the lack of it.
Stamps have been better tonight, and the Argos a much better team than the one we saw lose their last 9 of 2008. Medlock with the wind at his back. Another deep kickoff over the head of Joffrey Reynolds. And that one does go through the end zone and is not a single point. Well, we've talked about the impact of Bart Andrus. Let's hear from one of the senior Argos, Kevin Ivan.
I would describe Bart as disciplined, but also a player's coach. He can relate to everybody. He's never putting anybody down. He's always there to coach and make everyone better. He's making teammates better and players better. And ever since he's come in, I've seen a big impact on how people look up to him. And we always want to go out there and play our hardest for him.
Was a quarterback in college at University of Montana. Understands the mentality of a quarterback, but 7 years in NFL Europe. Players like him.
Calgary starts at the 25 after that kickoff through the end zone. At the fake to Reynolds, Burris takes off and lunges ahead for 6. Adriano Belli at the bottom of the pile. Not the only Montana quarterback on the sidelines. And Bart Andrus mentioned yesterday that before he took the job, he called Dave Dickinson for some advice and said, if I get the job, would you like to come join our staff?
In warm-up, they had a nice chat before this game started.
Better not be offering him a job now. That's tampering.
No, you can't do that now.
Dave said he was happy out west. There's a first down catch by Jermaine Copeland. But what Dave Dickinson told Bart Andrus is the biggest adjustment you're going to see is how wide the field is and game planning for the width of the field. And it looks like Bart Andrus has been a quick study.
He has. The width of the field, you know, the motion you can use offensively that we touched on, and then the Canadian ratio. But Bart Andrus has experience with working with ratios with NFL Europe because they had to have local talent as well.
First and 10 at the 39, and Burris again, and he's taken down just across the 40 as the 3-minute warning is given to the bench. As 1-point game here on Wendy's Friday Night Football. Well, coming up straight ahead, it's thrown at the half. Last night we had Groovin' Jock and Psychedelic Matt and 0067, and I didn't know Dave Randorf was the fifth monkey.
Well, I thought it was like this. I got the James Bond thing, and I got Matt, and Jock was the, you know, at Woodstock with the guitar. And Dave was just a dork, right? Is that how that was, or he was just...
No, Peter Tork of the Monkees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They'll be the 2009 version coming up, 2nd and 7. And Burris with a gun, and Willie Pyle can't hang on. There was some contact downfield. Kenyon Rambo, the intended target, and Pyle laments one that gets away.
It's going to be just to the left of your screen. You're going to see Willie Pyle here. Crossing route underneath by Nick Lewis. There, that's what crossed in front of the screen, and I believe Willie Pyle had dropped all the way back into the deep outside third. Kenyon Rambo is the deeper crossing route, and look at the jump on the ball Willie Pyle got. 6 tackles in the first 2 games for Pyle. Should have had a pick there.
But that Argo defense has been stouter here in the second quarter. And so Burke Dales to punt. Arlen Bruce back again. First time this year he's handled the punt return duties. And he's brought down at the 27. The Argos really haven't had much on special teams. Their longest punt return in the first 2 weeks was 18 yards, and hoping Bruce can inject a little more danger into that element of the game.
And I think the Argos really want to continue to get it to Jamal Robertson, who coming into tonight led the Canadian Football League. It's early, we know that. Joffrey Reynolds, the leader from a year ago. Red Reed in Winnipeg in second.
You know, he didn't have that many yards last year till week 14, but then ended with an impressive final 5 games. Just 3 carries, 20 yards so far tonight. Argos start at the 26. Looked like a broken play, and Joseph hits the deck.
You're right, Chris. I think it was a broken play. It looked like it was supposed to be a hitch screen to the wide receiver. And by the action from Kerry Joseph, he spins around, and he's talking right now to Jamal Robertson. So it was either a draw play, run play to Robertson. I thought the quickness that he spun around, he might be trying to throw the quick hitch outside, but to the wide receiver, communication issue there.
Haven't seen Joseph take off much. 737 yards rushing in his MOP season of 07. 2nd and 9. And the gun to the sidelines, and the ball is caught, but short of the first down. Reggie McNeil, another catch in the flat, but it will be a punting situation for Toronto.
Dwayne Carpenter is quietly putting together a good evening here. He was covering Arlan Bruce when Kerry Joseph was sacked on the last series. And watch him here. This is right down coming at you, folks. And Kerry Joseph takes a look. He doesn't want to look to the last second. And that guy with his hands that went right through was Dwayne Carpenter.
And before the kick gets off, Alain Kashama hits the deck. He'd been hobbled on the last play and decided he couldn't make it to the sidelines. Should mention that brother Fernand also in the lineup. First time, well, the last 2 weeks, first time the two Kashama brothers have been in the lineup together. Another brother, Hakeem, had a tryout with Calgary. We saw him as a Hamilton Tiger Cats a couple of years ago. And there's another brother in college football, Bronley. So apparently the football version of the Sutters, the Kashamas. And Pat Clayton will work on his right ankle. Gives us a chance to remind you one epic story, 5 nights. Don't miss Torchwood, Children of Earth, a 5-part television event premiering Monday at 10 o'clock Eastern on Space.
I'm enjoying this retro weekend. I watched that Lions game last night, that paw on the helmet. Took me back as a kid watching games in Empire Stadium with John Shira, some of Jerry Taggy at quarterback, and you can go further back for some people with Joe Cap. And
I'll show my age, my boyhood hero, Russ Jackson and Ronnie Stewart, Whit Tucker. And boy, I do remember how fun it was watching the Calgary Stampeders when Peter Liss came and suddenly started lighting it up. I mean, that was the first time teams really were passing on every down in the late 60s.
It was interesting because in the 60s, you saw the fight between the East and West, and then all of a sudden George Reed showed up.
Yep.
And he took over the rushing title for a lot of the latter part of it. And then, of course, Russ Jackson.
Ronnie Lancaster, and there'll be a lot of people remembering him tomorrow at Mosaic as we have another retro game there. Remember Larry Robinson? It wasn't. It was 1970, but still maybe the most famous field goal in CFL history into a blizzard to win a Western Final. Don't get us started.
We're reminiscing.
Here's that's the problem that we anticipated, slipping out of the hands of Steve Schmidt. Where's Randy Strachensky when you need him? Oh boy.
Randy Strachensky had said to Bart Andrus, I think he's ready, and that was sort of the last push that Andrus needed. Here he is right here in the middle of your screen. And it almost looked like, could that have been a fake?
You wonder
because Jared Payton didn't look at it, but that snap looked direct to the up back.
It did. And Jared Payton there is the protector, but also a guy who could have taken off. Well, now, great chance for the Stampeders, though, and that pass behind Nick Lewis incomplete.
Let's go back one more time. Jared Payton is that personal protector, it's called, or the up back. I'll show you where he lines up. He's right there now. There's Schmidt, the center. You tell me, that looks to me like he's trying a little snap directly to Jared Payton, who obviously did not get the call. It bounces back to Justin Metlock, who does his best, but
well, the guys watching the Argo bench didn't see anything that might tip who made the mistake, but it's 2nd and 10. Burris in trouble, and Adriano Belli pulls him down.
Well, the defense will save the Argos on this miscue because this was a fake, Chris.
And Jeff Pilon in the face of Adriano Belli after the celebration of Belli got tangled up with the quarterback who was already on the field.
Well, Belli doesn't want to take a penalty. He had enough of that last week. But a good play defensively, and the defense that bails out a special teams miscue.
And this will make it a 42-yard test for DeAngelis.
I'm going to show you why this is fake. Run it for a second, guys, and then stop it once the ball comes back. Here we go. Now stop it there. Look at the blocking setup between these guys right here. That's blocking for a fake. That's a fake block, and Jarrett Payton didn't get the call.
So we take Steve Schmidt off the hook. And now DeAngelis on to try and expand the lead. And Sandro, you got to call that, don't you? Off the upright and in. And DeAngelis still perfect.
Well, you know, the Stampeders will get 3, but really this is a win for the defense for the Argos, because that change with the mistake on special teams, Jarrett Payton not getting the fake call, to have Adriano Belli with a big play in the sack and not draw the penalty. Belli's right here, and he gets this sack here, which is bailing out his special teams, fighting through a double team. Last week, he got a couple of penalties, was fined by the league for both.
And Bart Andrus
was upset. And Belli, before Andrus even talked to him, was waiting at Bart Andrus' office because he knew he wanted to talk to him, which, by the way, Andrus loved. That he was conscientious, understood the importance of it, went in there, and basically Belli said, look, I'm not going to change the aggressiveness by which I play, but I will play smarter. And Andrus's reply to that as well, you have to change, because if you don't change with things like that, we start changing players.
Top Canadian in week 1. But a guy who got a benching in week 2 after those roughing penalties.
It's weird in football, though, momentum-wise, Chris. The Stampeders get 3 points. I still think momentum, because of the defensive stop, is with Toronto.
Here's Robertson on the return, and Dwayne Carpenter downfield. Penalty marker down. Carpenter may have been clipped into the return man and still made the tackle.
Starting to put a game together is Dwayne Carpenter.
On the right night to do that.
Yes, it's Spartacus night.
On the return, illegal block. Toronto number 51. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Raymond Fontaine, who has taken his share of early season penalties, flagged again.
Normally we would say it's the night for our gladiator.
But you're going retro on us again.
That's the modern version. In the 60s, one of the great movies in the 60s was Spartacus. Kirk Douglas.
It was Kirk Douglas.
Yes, sir. And that's where it all started. So we will name a Spartacus tonight.
Got young fans at home saying that must be Michael Douglas.
Yeah, his dad, actually.
52 seconds remaining here in the opening half. Argos stopped deep in their own zone, but Kerry Joseph has a completion. There is a penalty marker in the backfield, and Joseph slow to get up.
Another late hit.
But it's a hold against the Argos.
Joseph went down. I thought he had got rid of this football and was hit after the fact. May have been a hold as well, and there was.
Corner number 56. 10-yard penalty, or half the distance to the goal line. They keep first down.
Rob Murphy. So Odell Willis has been a handful so far tonight.
I asked Rob Murphy, I said, well, what do you think of Malik Jackson and Odell Willis, the guys you will face tonight? Here's that matchup right here. And he said, to be honest with you, I don't have much film on him. I'm not really sure what he's got. He shows there he's got some quickness on that inside move.
Willis got by him.
Don't know how that's holding, yeah.
It is now 1st and 17. And they dump it off. There's Robertson, and he is surrounded. Not much there, as the middle linebacker, Trey Blackman, limits the damage.
Kerry Joseph, see if he can get some breathing room to at least punt it here and maybe get out of the half. I think that's his objective more than anything.
Well, they got backed up late in the second quarter against Saskatchewan. Mistakes happened, and the score got out of hand.
That was a questionable call on that holding, though, and that's one that's put the Argos in a hole.
2nd and 14. behind Arlen Bruce falls incomplete. Calgary couldn't stop the clock. They'd already used their timeout in the first quarter. Otherwise, they might have a little more time to work with here in the late stages of this first half. 20 seconds now. And
well, you got to think Justin Medlock he'll be not only in his end zone, but pretty deep in it. I don't think Bart Andrus want to give up 2 with 20 seconds left.
And we won't see a fake here. Marcus Howell awaits.
Oh boy.
Trouble with the snap, but Medlock fields it well. Pretty good kick. There's Howell, and he'll be dropped. Oh, lost the helmet. Looked like the ball popped loose, but Marcus lost his lid, but held on. With the 11 seconds to go, he's dropped at the Argo 50-yard line.
Ever heard the term buckle up? You've heard it before, right? Like, that's a football term when you start in a practice and everyone's jogging around. They say, okay, guys, buckle up because it's going to get serious. Marcus Howell's got to buckle up. He's got to buckle up a little bit. He lost his hat. Well, he is buckled up. All the buckles were buckled up. See, there, that one, he's not buckled up. The two are coming down there. He had him buckled up and still lost it.
So 11 seconds left. Time for one play to get in field goal range. And that pass for Nick Lewis incomplete. 7 seconds to go. Wind in the face of the Stamp, so not likely a record attempt for Sandro DeAngelis.
No, but
they do have one more time to get a little closer.
Was it the Montreal game last year just before the half?
Yes, it was.
Teo Johnson. And John Huffnagel in that game wanted to try just Hail Mary, just throw it up and see what happens. And he actually got a touchdown in that one.
Don't think Johnson's on the field. Doesn't mean similar tech play call might not be made here. 7 seconds to go. And Travis is going to air it out. Puts it downfield in the end zone. Dowell broken up at the last second when it looked like Thelwell was open. Willie Middlebrooks prevents a touchdown. Good call, Mr. Suter. Hail Mary, final play, first half. 73 yards in the air by Burris into the wind, and that close to a dramatic touchdown. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL, proud home of the Grey Cup. We've got a defensive duel on Wendy's Friday Night Football, and Bart Andrus standing by with Jermaine Franklin.
Coach Andrews, it's a close score. Obviously, your defense is keeping you in it. Can you talk about the play of them in the first half?
Yeah, I've been very pleased with what they've done in the first half. But more than that, they've really maintained their composure. They've been provoked, but they've maintained their composure in the first half. I've been really pleased with the way they've played so far.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet, yeah.
So no 30-point meltdown in the second quarter this week, and we're in for a very interesting second half as the Stampeders try to end a 2-game losing streak to open the season, and the Argos trying to reestablish themselves as a tough team to play against after that unraveling at the end of last year.
Talk about Bart Andrus talking about the composure they've shown. The Calgary Stampeders, especially their offensive line, came out and played with a real edge. They tried to provoke guys like Adriano Belli, who you saw moments ago, and Belli has learned from last week and played aggressively, but not past the line.
There's Jamal Robertson. Matt Dunnigan made a good point about the wind, and the Argos will have it at their backs here in the third quarter as DeAngelis gets things going. Argos haven't had much in the return so far tonight. Maybe something developing here as Robertson runs into traffic at the 35 with the penalty marker on the play.
Yeah, interesting. The wind is more of a factor than it looks on TV. There is wind here, but the quarterbacks have battled it. They've moved the ball, like Jock Climby said at halftime. They've moved the ball a little bit. The Toronto Argonauts haven't finished drives.
Holding. Toronto, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Well, let's compare the numbers.
Yeah, I thought Kerry Joseph played well at times. He found Arlan Bruce a couple of times, made some big contested catches. He had 150, so on pace for 300 in the game. Henry Burris had a good start. He had that 9-play drive. The second quarter, I think that Toronto defense had more to say about his play than anything else.
Just about a dead heat between those two in the first half. 4-point game as we start the second, and it looks like a procedure call to start against that Argo offensive line.
The enemy of the Stampeders in the first half was penalties on defense.
Legal procedure. Toronto number 64. 5-yard penalty. It remains first down.
It's the center, Dominic Picard, who looked like he double clutched on the shotgun snap. And to start the second half, back-to-back penalties for the Argonauts.
It's difficult for the center. That center is a job that he breaks the huddle. Now he's got to look at the defense, call the fronts out, tell the rest of the linemen what their blocking assignments are, and then snap the football.
So it's 1st and 15. Back at the 18-yard line. And they dump it off through the hands of Robertson, incomplete.
You know, the Calgary Stampeders eliminate some of those penalties on defense. They've got a pretty good game so far going from Odell Willis, who is the defensive end. Had a sack coming in, has had pressure all night. Chris Jones, defensive coordinator, is trying to find his way with this new defense. Only 7 returnees, and there's Dwayne Carpenter, who I thought had a pretty good first half as well.
Remember, there were 10 new faces last year on defense, so not a lot of continuity even with the success. Another flag as Joseph airs it out, looking for Arlan Bruce. And it's a stride too far. And who's this penalty on as markers on both sides of the field?
More down towards the secondary as well, so it's like the Argos will get another chance. Yeah.
Offside. Calgary number 98. 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
Well, you make a good point about Chris Jones' defense as he took over last year, and he changed from the 07 season in a big way, drastically. You can see 07, they were last in the 3 major categories. They weren't generating enough turnovers. Their rushing yards allowed was last in the league, same with points. He fixed it, and then they've regressed because of the newcomers, and he's trying to build it again.
And they're going up against a team that has scored the most touchdowns in the league so far this year, but none tonight. Kerry Joseph tripped up in the backfield, and there is the other newcomer on the end, Malik Jackson.
Just behind the goalpost, Malik Jackson, number 49, off the edge on Rob Murphy, then cuts underneath, comes up the field, then underneath. So what it turns out to be a double team on Mike Labinjo, and you get Malik Jackson free.
And so deep in their own territory, Steve Schmidt gets it. The snap to Medlock. Wind at his back.
Wow, he nailed it.
And Howell flags it down at the 47. Brian Crawford downfield quickly. 52-yard punt. But great field position for Henry Burris to go to work for the first time in the second half when we return to McMahon on Wendy's Friday Night Football. Tomorrow, TSN2 brings you exclusive NASCAR action as the track heats up at the Gateway International Speedway for Nationwide Dodge Dealers 250 qualifying. Live coverage at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific.
Did you know in the 60s that the mini skirt was invented?
I did not. Well, I guess I knew that.
Retro weekend.
Yes, good memories. Short gain, Joffrey Reynolds trying the left side of that Argo defense.
You know what the Calgary Stampeders, in my mind, haven't really done this year as well as they did last year was push the ball vertical. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that a little bit more as this game goes on. I mean, Kenyon Ramos working his way back into the lineup. Nick Lewis is a little banged up. Didn't practice much this week, but Copeland's still out there. They can get Ryan Thelwell deep.
You're right, last week, Rambo's longest reception was 11 yards. Nick Lewis, 13. 2nd and 10 here. And the out to Brett Ralph. First catch of the game for Ralph. It'll be short of a first down. Ralph, a focus of attention last week with a couple of drops and a fumble in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that just was not Brett Ralph. Brett Ralph didn't have a good game, but it wasn't just him. You know, Jermaine Copeland dropped a couple of catchable passes, interceptions where they had communication issues. I've seen an improvement, but not one that's jumped off the page just yet.
Well, there were extra catching drills this week. That's another good stop for the Argos, though. Burris and the Stamps had great field position. It's a 2 and out. And now Dales has to punt into the wind. Marlon Bruce from his 7. And Bruce will be dropped at the 13-yard line. No penalty. Well, there is a penalty flag on the play. And we've seen our share of those. So neither team has eradicated that problem yet.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, number 56 on Calgary. 15 yards, first down.
Randy Chevrier. And that's the 4th major foul against the Stamps.
56, right in the middle of your screen. And ball carrier down. Takes a shot at his head.
And that helps the Argos get out of a bit of a hole. And they really haven't had terrific field position tonight.
It does, and a first down or 2 for Bart Andrus' offense, and they flop the field.
Jamal Robertson, little cutback, but nothing doing. Jack Climby mentioned the battle in the trenches being won by the defensive lines. That continues. Let's go down to Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Looks like the Argos are very thin at the receiver position. Talbot did not return due to an ankle injury. Lambros, it did not return due to a leg injury. And it looks like Mike Bradwell will get a lot more playing time, the rookie out of McMaster. And there is one more receiver that is on the bench, but he is not playing, in Tyler Scott.
He got dinged early too, yeah.
So that's 3 all Canadian receivers. So Bradwell's in. And that pass is caught by Robertson, a first down, ridden out by Brandon Browner at the Argo bench, but that's a 2nd down conversion, 2nd and long. Argos, by the way, were the best team at converting 2nd and long in the first 2 weeks.
Comes out of the backfield right here, and he'll sit down right on the sideline. The Calgary Stampeders, one of the few times they're playing zone defense where the defensive backs drop into areas on the field, and the soft spot in that zone was underneath to Robertson.
13 for Robertson, a first down at the 42. Fake to Robertson. Joseph got outside. Bruce, little bobble, and he is punished by Milton Collins.
And with all the receivers banged up for the Argos on a short work week for them, puts just that much more pressure on guys like Arland Bruce and Reggie McNeil, guys who came into the game. Reggie McNeil had a couple of drops. Seems like that problem is behind him. But Kerry Joseph now has to start to lean on those guys and isolate them a little bit. They know Calgary will play man-to-man.
Argos 5 for 11 on 2nd down conversions tonight. 2nd down here. And Bruce makes a man miss and gets a valuable extra couple of yards to move the sticks.
The difference between an accurate throw and one that's just a bit off, Chris, is night and day. I mean, Kerry Joseph here to the right of your screen throws this nice and low into the belly of Arland Bruce so he can coil up and break that tackle. If that ball is high, Bruce gets tattooed in the ear hole and may even not catch it. I mean, he may get, a fumble. You never know. He was allowed to coil up, catch it, protect himself, and break a tackle.
Got by Ronnie Amati, got a fresh set of downs, and here's Joseph rolling again. Stands in, pressure, and now gets it away, and Reggie McNeil's got a gain and is ridden out near the Argo bench again by Brandon Browner.
The luxury of an athletic quarterback, okay? The what it does to a defender when he has him. I mean, this is Dwayne Carpenter says, I've got you square. Now he has to break down and get square with his feet like that, or he might miss him. And because of that hesitation, Joseph can make that move and find a receiver.
They got 7, so it's 2nd and 3 at the Calgary 49. And Joseph looking downfield, nobody home, as Arlen Bruce got tangled up on the play with coverage from Devonzo Tate.
But that drive did flop the field for the Argos. It starts with a penalty. They get a couple first downs. Now it's at midfield with a punt and decent coverage. They flopped the field, meaning it was all in their end deep. Now with the penalty and a first down, it switches around and it can be all in the Stampeders end.
Just wondered if they didn't get a little greedy there on 2nd and 3. But you're right, a couple of first downs in the 15-yarder, and now they'll try and pin the Stamps as Marcus Howell stands at his 10. Good snap. Medlock looks for the corner, and that
nice
one is going to be marked out at the 14. Good job by Medlock midway through this third quarter. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and there have been 2 sacks apiece so far tonight.
Yeah, I agree with Jock Climbing when he said at halftime that the defensive lines have played well tonight. I think the Argo defense is really showing something tonight, especially after that first long drive in the first quarter by Burris.
They've been resilient deep in their own zone. Now they look for a 2-and-out to pin the Stamps. What a great fake by Burris. Flag down. Burris with the feet first slide. And let's see if this is coming back. It is. Holding call in the trenches. And that negates a first down run, which would have been valuable real estate.
Calgary number 67. Half the goal line. Repeat first down.
Second-year man Dimitri Sumpas draws the marker.
Remember when Kerry Joseph had Dwayne Carpenter one-on-one, and this is a holding call, but let's show you Henry Burris here for a second. Again, the same situation. Zeke Moreno stuck on an island, one-on-one with an athletic quarterback that can run. I've been there. It's not fun.
You know, we haven't seen that zone read much in the first couple of weeks. Kind of the bread and butter for the Stamps.
Penalty still an issue for both these teams.
1st and 17. Lots of time.
Whoa.
A lot of steamboats. Looking for Copeland. Got it. Jermaine Copeland at the 45. He was down, and they'll mark him down. So that's a big catch for Jermaine Copeland.
Henry Burris has all kinds of time. I knew it was a matter of time. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. He has all day to find Kojic.
Working against Jason Shivers.
Knew it was a matter of time before this Calgary Stampeder team would start to push the ball. They have the talent to do it. We know that.
Longest reception of the young season for the Stamps. 57 yards. And a first down at the Toronto 46. Looking into the flat, there's Rambo. First down catch as he works against Willie Middlebrooks.
This is a play where Henry Burris will look at Rambo, see him looking back in at Burris, and this is a designed throw behind, meaning he's going to throw it to the back numbers and allow Rambo to slam on the brakes and catch it just behind in front of Willie Middlebrooks.
Best looking offense we've seen from Calgary since their first possession. Reynolds in motion. 6 receivers out. Burris steps up. Open man is Reynolds. Inside the 10. Joffrey Reynolds to the corner, and they'll mark him. No touchdown.
That second effort to reach out with the football. Henry Burris extending the down. Scrambling with his eyes downfield, and watch the extension right there to break the plane.
So Reynolds has both Calgary touchdowns, one on the ground, and that a 32-yarder to give the Stamps a little breathing room. Extra point good by DeAngelis, and it all started on that 57-yarder to Jermaine Copeland. Officially 4 plays, 96 yards, but in fact, Calgary, after the penalty, had to move it 103 yards. And Joffrey Reynolds has his second touchdown of the night. A lot of questions about why he hadn't been a bigger part of the offense. And hurting the Argos as a receiver tonight. Here's Robertson, and the Argos return game still very much an issue. They're not getting much done.
Let's go back to this touchdown by Joffrey Reynolds. There he is right here, and here's the pass route that he's going to take out into the flat. And I want to show you how important it is when you have a running quarterback that can move around like this, how tough it is now for a defender. There is Willie Pyle, who now has to make a decision. Do I go and cover Joffrey Reynolds, or do I come up and help on Henry Burris and make that tackle? Willie Pyle bounces his feet. He's not sure who I should get. He ends up covering nothing but turf, and Joffrey Reynolds finds the end zone.
And again, the Argos have to start with pretty average field position at best. Pressure, Joseph Pop, up, jump ball, and it falls incomplete. Dwight Anderson had a crack at it. Wes Lysak in the area, and the durable Kerry Joseph gets up on the limp after taking quite a hit.
And that almost fell into the hands of Arland Bruce. Lysak comes over and he runs into his teammate, and at the other end, Kerry Joseph takes a wallop here. Malik Jackson, helmet under the chin, and he's taken a few of those. At the other end, Lysak and his teammate Dwight Anderson collide.
Joseph lucky that one was not intercepted, and that one almost was. Through the hands of the middle linebacker, Trey Blackman.
Well,
2 and out.
Chris, when you get hit as a quarterback like Joseph just did from Malik Jackson, the next play you get a little gun shy. And he rushed his throw a little bit. He didn't really set up and wait for that play to develop. And Trey Blackman was right in the throwing lane. Should have had one.
Back-to-back throws into traffic, and no wonder. Look at the pressure, and John Hufnagel called for that tonight, and he's getting it from his front four. Medlock's kick, and Howell let it skip by him, and an Argo bounce out at around the 33-yard line.
It's our Spartacus night, our Gladiator night, and another chance to salute the true gladiators. The Canadian Forces. Meet Corporal Randy Smith from Petty Kodiak, New Brunswick, seen here patrolling the streets of Kandahar. Once again, we thank the Canadian Forces for everything they do, and it's been a tough week.
It has indeed, but we salute the men and women who are serving us proudly there, as we do each Friday night. Less than 5 to go in the third quarter. That pass slips through the fingertips of Jermaine Copeland.
Yeah, that hello to the Canadian Forces is a way of just saying thank you and reminding all of Canadians that it's for real, and these guys are dealing with it every single day. And it's retro week for the 60s, and that was the decade where the Canadian flag was adopted.
2nd and 10. Stamps at their 33. Argos show blitz and jumped a little quick. And penalty markers stop the play. And we'll see if they were drawn. Doesn't look like it.
Well, the one thing that you know has improved.
Illegal procedure. Calgary number 65. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Excuse me. Ben Archibald, the left tackle, did flinch.
Yeah, but Ben Archibald flinch. He gets a penalty there. But this offensive line with the starters back, that long throw to Jermaine Copeland, how much time did Henry Burris have there? They've got their Hoggies back.
So it's 2nd and 15. Argos looking for a stop. And a quarterback draw. Henry Burris gets to the first down stick.
He was focused. He was focused. Last night, talking to him about his pregame meal and ritual, he's gone back to what he did in 08. He came in focused. This Argo defense has really battled tonight. So, you know, offensively, he's had to work for everything he's been able to put up on the board, but playing a lot better.
Guy who ran for 79 yards in the Grey Cup game has 43 tonight against this Argo D. Play big to Reynolds and Brett Ralph, and that's the guy we've admired for the past 5 years at the wideout spot in Calgary.
Well, across the board, I mean, the 0-2 start for the Stampeders, and you got Kenyon Rambo, Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland, Brett Ralph. I mean, Montreal has a great receiving core. There's a couple of real good ones in BC. You know, Edmonton's got a couple, but as a core, the Calgary Stampeders, and you wonder how they could be 0-2 with that receiving core and that quarterback.
Here's pressure, and Burris is decked. Brought down for the 2nd time tonight by Lynn J. Shell, and it's the 3rd quarterback sack of the evening for the Argos.
There he is right there, and he's coming right off the edge, untouched. Calgary Stampeders, Nick Lewis lines up as a tight end, but he doesn't take Ivan or Shell off the edge. Leaves him for Joffrey Reynolds, and then Joffrey Reynolds has to take the most dangerous, which is the inside guy, Ivan.
Lost 9, so 2nd and 19. He just converted on 2nd and 15. Big pressure again. Burris in trouble. And he's got a completion. Ryan Thorwell still going. First down. And finally dropped at the 35. Stamps are rolling. 27 yards. Burris to the veteran Thorwell.
Henry Burris is taking control of the game. And this is a full blitz from the Argos. Adriano Belli is clean. Burris again scrambles, eyes up, composed as he runs to his right. He hangs on to the ball on the shell hit and then finds Thelwell there.
London, Ontario native with a clutch first down catch. And that ball brought down. Great catch, Jermaine Copeland. There's that big window we've talked about. Get it around him, and he'll bring it in.
A la Peter Lisk to the out. And a dart. Look at Copeland go up and pull that baby down. Sometimes the pitcher speaks volumes. Great catch.
5 yards for Copeland, 2nd and 5. Quarterback draw again. Burris dropped and the ball comes loose. As the play been whistled dead, Argos say they've got it. And it is Argo football.
And this one, take a look quickly to see if he was not down by contact before the ball came out.
Willie Middlebrooks with the hit. And it looked like that ball was jarred loose.
Yes, I think it was.
So the second fumble of the night for Calgary.
And that ball is loose, and he is not touched yet. In fact, the ball bounced before he touched. And the process here to see whether or not that will be challenged, and it won't be, is John Huffning on that headset will get the word from upstairs, and they saw the replays as well, and they'll say, no, don't even bother.
11th giveaway of the year for Calgary, second tonight. Argos dodge a bullet. Joseph has Reggie McNeil. And McNeil stuck by Milton Collins up across the 40-yard line.
Milton Collins is a hitter back there. I mean, he is bringing the hammer.
back memories of Glenn Suter.
Well, you have to really go back.
He's trying to work with the retro theme.
Yeah.
1st and 10. Off the right side, Robertson trying to kick it outside, and Blackman's there with help from Devonzo Tate.
And no need for the Argos to panic. I mean, there's lots of football to be played here. So they don't have to push the ball deep. They're finally getting a little field position they can work with.
You're right. It felt like the game was slipping away from them. And if Calgary put more points on the board in that last drive, it might have been curtains for Bart Andrus tonight, but they've got a whole quarter left. This should be the final play of quarter number 3. And some early movement there. Looked like somebody jumped on that Argo offensive line.
Penalty still an issue.
Procedure. Toronto number 57. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Ryan Ramsey called there. Still an issue for both teams. I think Bart Andrus has eliminated the ones after the whistle, but he's having some problems with the ones just before or during the whistle.
19 penalties amassed by the two teams so far tonight. And barring another, this will be the final play of the 3rd quarter. Crawford flares onto the backfield. Joseph looking downfield. Penalty marker there. And the ball falls incomplete, and we have 2 different markers on the turf.
Hang on, folks, before you get your snack. We'll see what this one is.
Well, there are actually 3 different flags downfield, so there may be some accounting to be done here by the officials.
Forward pass interference. Calgary number 27. Major foul. Face mask. Calgary number 27. Point of foul plus 15 yards. 1st down.
Brandon Browner double dipping in the wrong category.
And that is a lot of real estate. You're talking about the point of foul for the contact and then the face mask added on. That's the intended target. Reggie McNeil. There's the pull and the pass interference and the face mask. You saw it all, and he's locked in. He won't even let the left hand or arm of Reggie McNeil go.
And now they go Wildcat from the 30, Jamal Robertson. And the reverse, Kerry Joseph. And he'll try and throw it, and it's knocked away. Dwayne Carpenter's got it. Oh boy, Dwayne Carpenter is off to the races. A botched play by the Argos. Touchdown, Calgary.
Bart Andrus said he would throw in some wrinkles in the Wildcat formation. Might need to iron out some of those wrinkles. That's Kerry Joseph right there. He lines up his receivers coming on the reverse and wants to throw it.
That's Fernand Kashama, who got to the quarterback, and Dwayne Carpenter picked up the loose change. And DeAngelis for the extra point. Just when it looked like Toronto was going to get back in it, Calgary expands their lead on the final play of the 3rd quarter. Third quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, they're fairly close, but until you look down at the penalties, I think the penalties are still an issue. They were coming in for both these coaches, and they still are now. And really, the game looked like it was going to be real close there in the 3rd quarter until one play by Dwayne Carpenter, who is looking more and more like our Spartacus.
Yeah, that may have been at least a 10-point turnaround there, because the Argos were already in field goal position, and people are already second-guessing that Wildcat gadget play.
Well, you know, I like to see it. I like the innovation. You can probably question the timing of it, in that they had a drive going with conventional offense, and they hadn't run much Wildcat to set up a reverse like that.
Oh, but boy, Rambo won anyway. He was getting them earlier.
Kashama and Carpenter Huge defensive plays, a defensive touchdown by the Stamps. And here's Robertson trying to get out beyond the 20, and that's been tough sledding on returns for the Argos all night.
I haven't given it to him yet because he's still got a quarter to go. But here is the play. Let's run it one more time. Little reverse here out of the Wildcat formation. Problems for Kerry Joseph there, and that is Dwayne Carpenter here, who comes up. He not only knocks the ball out of Joseph's hand, but he keeps his balance, fights for it, scoops it up, and then sprints to the end zone.
Now, you felt maybe we should have seen a Wildcat play or two before that to set it up?
Well, you know, reverses are set up by running the same look.
There's a completion, and Mike Bradwell has his first catch of the night.
You know, and I'm not questioning. I mean, I love that Bart Andrus is running the Wildcat. I think, you know, with his athletes, it suits that offense pretty well when you got Jamal Robertson, Reggie McNeil, and a quarterback like Kerry Joseph. But usually when you run a reverse, Chris, you run the same action, like a running play, a running play, a running play, a running play, and out of the same formation, and then you switch it up and do the reverse, and it tricks the defense. He didn't really run much Wildcat, and then went right to the reverse.
First down, pressure again, and this time Tom Johnson has the sack, his first of the CFL, wearing John Helton's old number on retro night.
Just worked his way, didn't really get picked up by anybody, just kind of weaved his way, and when you're that size, it's hard to weave.
Stamps had 2 sacks coming into the game, 3 tonight. Second and long, downfield through the hands of Bruce, and intercepted by Dwight Anderson. And Anderson, he could score, touchdown, back-to-back defensive majors, as Calgary takes firm control.
Brandon Browner with a refreshment.
It is a hot, dry night.
It sure is. Well, this ball from Kerry Joseph, little wobble on it, but really not Joseph's fault. Little high, but a catchable ball for Arland Bruce. And when it goes through your hands and tips up, there's about 3 or 4 defensive backs behind you saying thank you very much.
2 defensive touchdowns in 1:52. Well, they had to be better on defense. I'm not sure anybody was counting on the defense being that offensive. But they have provided quite a cushion here. Just beyond the 2-minute mark of the 4th quarter. On TSN's live coverage of the 2009 Open Championship continues tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific, and it may be a special weekend. Also catch bonus online coverage of holes 9, 10, and 11 live exclusively on tsn.ca. 59-year-old Tom Watson, speaking of Retro Week, with a share of the lead at 5 under and no Tiger Woods to worry about on the final weekend. Reggie McNeil now will take a turn as the Argos try to get some return yardage. And not much there, just shy of the 25-yard line.
Yeah, early on I just said that it looked like Arland Bruce should have caught this ball, that it was a bit high. But, you know, when I looked at it again, if this was baseball, I'd give the error to Kerry Joseph. He had a throwing lane and he had a chance. But, you know, the timing was right, because as Bruce comes around the corner here, the ball should be arriving, and it is. But look how high it is. I mean, that one, he has to really sky and then just gets a few fingers on it. Good reaction by Dwight Anderson in behind him to pick that one off and take it to the house.
Raymond Fontaine, a special teams Argonaut, is shaken up on the play. By the way, the retro jerseys normally don't have the nameplates. The Argos ownership asked for permission for their fans to have the names on the jerseys, even though they weren't there in the 60s.
That's okay. still getting the idea. When the McMahon Stadium was built,
you know, this
in the
score
60s.
is getting out of hand, but I think we've seen enough evidence that this is an improved Argonaut team, and we're now seeing why the Calgary Stampeders were winners last year. Their defense has bounced back tonight, and Kerry Joseph has been able to solve it.
Yeah, and I think that the Argos, when they went down, weren't down far enough that they had to abandon the run like they did. I mean, I think that's what they'll probably look at. And when they self-scout this week, they may say, you know, we probably could have stayed with the run and more conventional offense, because it wasn't out of reach until the defensive touchdowns back-to-back.
Last week, 30 points in under 8 minutes. And you just dial back, final play of the third quarter. It's 20-9, and the Argos have the ball at the 30. It all changed in a hurry. Product of Lee side, Mike Bradwell has another catch. And again, that's one of the costly aspects of this game. The Argonauts losing Andre Talbot, Matt Lambros, and Tyler Scott also shaken up. 3 Canadian receivers lost to Bart Andrus's troops tonight.
No question, this is an improved team, though. Bart Andrus is an organized guy. Takes care of every minute of every practice, and you can tell.
2nd and 6. More pressure, dumped off, and it's Crawford. Got by Shannon James and Tate, and then filling in as the middle linebacker, Trey Blackman.
2 things I noticed, though, from the Calgary Stampeders' point of view. Their defense still has some question marks. Yes, they've played better. We've seen pass rushes from Ordell Willis. Dwayne Carpenter with a big game tonight. Trey Blackman's working his way through the lineup. I thought Willis played well in that first half. The halfbacks are settling in. Chris Jones had the same issue at the beginning of last year. And he's got to take some time with this young group. But they're showing signs. Early in the first half, they were backed up inside their own red zone 3 times and only gave away field goals. That's a good sign.
3rd and 1, and the Argos will kick it away. Howell awaits. And again, this one bouncing. One hop into the hands of Howell, who is swarmed at the 42-yard line. Approaching the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Wendy's CFL on TSN Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939.
Is that a huge sigh of relief? Just heard from that city in behind?
Yes. One thing John Hufnagel told us yesterday, though, the one positive of the first 2 weeks, he felt his team hung together. There were no fingers pointed. Offense has scored 2. The defense has scored 2 tonight. And Nick Lewis has a few more as Jason Shivers hauls him down at the Argo 43-yard line.
I asked John Hufnagel what he did differently this week to try and get them on track. And he said, like he did when he took the job last year, like he did in training camp, he reminded the players of their personal accountability. Just take care of your jobs, come prepared to play, and then go out and execute, because he's really felt that execution was their problem in week 1 and 2.
Henry Burris over 300 yards for the first time this year. There's a catch for Teo Johnson, pushed out by Willie Middlebrooks. Burris had back-to-back 247-yard games, which is obviously not vintage number 1. More like it here tonight.
The pregame meal changeup, it appears to have worked. Now, there's lots of time, but it appears to have worked.
And he wasn't shying away from responsibility. People wondered if he was hurt. He said, nothing wrong with me. I just have to be better. I have to pick it up. And they've done that in the second half. Kenyon Rambo on the reverse. Trying to get to the stick, and Jason Shivers prevents a first down.
Be close. Yeah, you know, I asked Henry after the Winnipeg game, what do you think? And he said, you know, right now we're just running plays. And, you know, what that means is that's what they do in practice. You run the plays, and he said, but we're just running plays. There's none of that bounce after when you catch a little 5-yard and you turn and make a guy miss. There's the snap in the football. I need to throw it. When I need to get it to a spot and it has to be a hard throw, I gotta put it there. You know, just the little things, the fundamentals. But he said, we were just running plays, but we didn't have a purpose. Tonight they've had more of a purpose. The Argos played well on defense in the middle of this football game, but this is a better outing from the offense for Calgary.
DeAngelis looking to add to it from 42 yards out. 3rd and a yard and a half, and that's why the field goal team is on. And Sandro's on. And it's 37-9, Stampeders. Tonight's game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Well, finally the Calgary Stampeders didn't look at a huge deficit before they even got the football. They got a good first quarter going, a 9-play drive. They actually had the lead in the first, which is new. You can see the Argo defense. Argo defense played well. Only gave up 23 points here tonight so far.
Reggie McNeil trying to get outside. Runs out of room at the 30. Well, it was a tight game through 44, almost 45 full minutes, and then this.
You know, it seems for the Argos, when they've had their problems, they kind of come in bunches in a small amount of time, because they were right in it until then, and then bang, bang, 2 plays in a short amount of time, and they're out of the game. Think back to last week and the 7.5 minutes in the 3rd quarter against Saskatchewan. 7.5 minutes cost them a football game. Or excuse me, the 2nd quarter last week, and this week it was another little 5-minute spurt there that cost them the football game.
Gary Joseph into the flat. There's Robertson. You know that old football adage about 5 plays make the difference, and you could probably count the 5 plays here tonight that have separated these two teams, even though the scoreboard looks lopsided.
Yeah, the scoreboard won't really be a good indication. I mean, taking nothing away from the Calgary Stampeders, I just think that this Argo defense has played well enough to give their team a chance.
And Reggie McNeil, the intended target.
And Dwayne Carpenter almost had another touchdown. Joseph saw him at the last second. I think he deliberately threw that into the carpet because Carpenter was coming across. He's right over here. He slides under, and look at where he is. He is right in that throwing lane going, oh, if he really tries to throw that one.
Changed his mind at the very last second. Gary Joseph with Carpenter in the neighborhood. So it's a quick 2 and out. But remember, when this was a tight game, the Argos had to settle for field goals twice inside the Calgary 10. Not a deep kick. And the Argo defenders have to back away as Howell picks it up, and the no yards flag is tossed. 5-yard no yards penalty. Henry Burris over 300 yards, just the 2nd time in 10 career starts against the Argos.
You know what he did tonight? He used his legs to extend plays.
Corner number 43, 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
Now, he did it in the first 2 games, but he did it trying to run. This time, both quarterbacks actually ran well tonight. Gary Joseph had his moments, but I like the way Burris ran with his eyes downfield tonight. Different than week 1 and 2. Now, Gary Joseph had his moments. He's a running quarterback as well. But it was how Burris did it. It was how he ran with vision downfield. Both quarterbacks very athletic.
And in fairness, I think Joseph was under duress a lot more tonight. There's Thelwell. And Ryan Thelwell's provided a real spark to this offense. Last week he was just about the only weapon in the Calgary arsenal, and he's made some key catches tonight. 23 there.
Well, last week his first 100-yard game since Labor Day 2007 for Ryan Thelwell.
Maybe the only issue now is Calgary offense wants to score more touchdowns than their defense tonight. And somebody flinched on that line.
Illegal procedure. Calgary number 62. 5-yard penalty. It remains first down.
Left guard Jesse Newman, the pride of Powell River, BC.
Well, they're still running their offense, Chris, because, you know, all they have to do is look at that Toronto film in the second quarter. I want to show you that time. Look at that. It was 7:55 that Toronto gave up 30 points in the second quarter. 7:14 is not much different. And Calgary knows that in 7 minutes, a lot can happen. They want to keep running their offense right now.
And that one batted down. Good defensive breakup by Willie Pyle. Intended for the newcomer Jermaine Jackson.
Now, you don't get the overwhelming feeling that the Stamps defense will give up 30 points in this 7 minutes. It's very different circumstances, and they've played much better tonight. But
I think, too, they've
happen.
got BC and Saskatchewan on the horizon, and
They're working
they
on
want to
their
make
game.
sure all cylinders are firing, and it's starting to look that way.
Look at Henry Burris just command the huddle and get the people lined up.
2nd and 15, pressure off the edge, and an open man is Brett Ralph, who was not going to drop anything tonight. Pushed out short of the first down.
Mentioned earlier about Bart Andrews and how he deals with the discipline issues, and I asked Huffnagel the same thing. I mean, how do you do it when, you know, players might be taking penalties when they shouldn't, things like that? He said, for me, it's pretty simple. I'll address the team first as a group, because it is the ultimate team game. Secondly, if it's a problem for an individual, I'll eventually invite him to my office for a discussion, and we'll try and rectify the situation and make the adjustments. And then as he's leaving the office, I'll say, I don't want to have you come back in here again. And that is usually enough, because if the player goes in for a second visit in the head man's office, it's his last.
Yeah, you don't get a third visit.
No.
Burke Dales. And Arlen Bruce will bring it out of the end zone, and he is dropped at the 6-yard line. Malik Jackson. Boy, field position's been a story in this game. The Argos just have not had it, and we've had a flag on just about every kick as well. And another penalty against the Argos. And while you're talking about how John Huffnagel handled it, Bart Andrus mentioned last week he doesn't usually talk to his team.
Return, illegal block. Corner number 40. Half the distance to the goal line. First down.
Brian Crawford called there, the veteran special teams guy. Doesn't usually talk to his team right away at halftime, but he did last week when they came in against Saskatchewan.
Told him to settle down and get the mindset, take a big deep breath, and get that mindset like you had when you started the game, because last week the Argos started very well against Saskatchewan, had the lead, and then had the disastrous 7.5 minutes in the second. So this team has improved. It's organized, but it's all about the W's.
Jarrett Payton is into the game at running back for Robertson. From the end zone, Joseph overthrowing McNeil, incomplete. Closest man to the football was Wes Lysak. And in the second half, here's where the Argos have started. They're 23, twice from the 28, the 20, the 24, the 31, and now the 2. So their best field position start in the second half, their own 31. And that's tough on any offense, especially against a defense that's been tough tonight.
And in their second quarter in Saskatchewan, they didn't get past the 30 in the entire quarter.
2nd and 10 from the end zone with pressure. Shakes the tackle, avoids the safety, and then finds a receiver. And Mike Bradwell has a catch across the 40. That's better field position. And some pretty nifty footwork from Kerry Joseph.
Yeah, and how it shows his strength too, and just how strong he is, and how physical of a quarterback he is. He just was able to just break that tackle, and that's a big man. That's Willis, Odell Willis, and he stands 6'2", 270.
He's gotten to know Willis tonight. First down after that 39-yard pickup. Great catch. And then separated from Brandon Browner. What a hit from Browner as Bruce's momentum took him right into that truck.
And there's no question in this game, the message from John Huffnagel as far as the sense of urgency was heard loud and clear. Because the Calgary Stampeders have won the physical battle. They have won the physical battle because every time that an Argonaut has had the ball, he has been hit and hit hard.
Punishing jolt from Brandon Browner. 2nd and 10. Time. And McNeil in traffic brings it down. First down. Check that. James Robinson with the catch near midfield. And that's his first catch of the night.
Hasn't really used the wide side very often. And that's where James Robinson will line up. He had to gun that into a small window.
14 for Robinson. First down, and that one almost picked off as Brandon Browner airtight coverage on Robinson.
And that's the type of coverage and the reason that teams will stay away from Brandon Browner. He starts out late. He actually breaks the huddle late there and comes over. But watch how he gets in the trail position, doesn't panic, and then cuts right under. That's a perfect angle underneath James Robinson.
2nd and 10 from midfield. And that ball is dropped.
That was in between Arland Bruce and James Robinson, and it even surprised Brandon Browner.
I think Browner's still shaken up from the last play. He was a little slow to get back in.
Over Arland Bruce's head, but in front of James Robinson, and it surprised the corner.
So off the fingertips of Browner. It's 3rd down. Argos keep the offense on the field. Midfield, 3rd and 10, and Joseph going down.
Willis again, I believe.
Yes, Odell Willis did get there that time and has his 2nd sack of the night. Turnover on downs.
There he is right there. Spin move. Goes to the inside on Jonta Woodard, gets him to freeze his feet, and then spins back out. He did that earlier on Rob Murphy. On the other side, and he's racking up some stats tonight.
Stamps wanted more speed off the edge, and they may have found it in Willis and Malik Jackson. And Barrett Neely into the game to mop up with just over 3 minutes to go. So the Stamps post their first win.
With the Lions winning last night, I know that a lot of the Calgary Stampeders were saying and talking about the importance of this game, not just for their own psyche, but because of the race in the West. And they didn't want to drop to 0-3. Last time they did that was the year after they won the Grey Cup in 01.
A couple of touchdown passes last week for Barrett Neely. His first 2 in the CFL, and on 2nd down, Reynolds again, as the 3-minute warning is given to the benches here at McMahon. Time now for the TSN Turning Point, and you don't have to be Leo Gale to come up with this one.
No, honorable mention to Odell Willis, but this guy had a big game. This was the turning point of the football game when Carpenter took it the distance.
I detect a little foreshadowing.
I know.
The TSN Turning Point brought to you by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. I think we're going to see that play again.
Yeah, I was queuing up something else.
Erwin Bruce almost tackled in the end zone, does turn the corner, runs out of real estate. More penalty markers on the play, and a little scrap involving Burke Dales, the former junior hockey enforcer downfield. Who's he locked up with? Jordan Younger. Birkdale's told me he was a former tough guy in junior hockey for Brockville and was living in the retro experience there.
Drop the gloves.
On the return, holding. Corner number 45, half the distance to the goal line, first down.
Or a glove.
And a holding penalty also on the play. Not sure if that was Jason Pottinger. They announced a number that not listed here, but so another long field. Well, they started their last possession at the 2, and this is at the 2.5.
Kerry Joseph still in the game. Is interesting.
Look at those numbers. Calgary's front four did a job tonight. And that one knocked down with markers all over the field in the Calgary defensive backfield.
A couple of changes for Calgary for this one.
2-minute men in the field, Calgary, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Kerry Joseph felt like that's been the case a lot tonight, but this time it was for real.
Sure has. The two changes that have paid off for John Hufnagel have been Malik Jackson and moving Odell Willis out to defensive end.
Well, that will be an issue.
Yeah.
136 yards of penalties will be dealt with. John Hufnagel shaved a lot of penalty yards off this team last year. Pressure again. Odell Willis again. And down goes Joseph. And there was a meeting at the quarterback. Malik Jackson in the neighborhood, and it's the 5th sack.
I thought Malik Jackson, who was right down at the bottom of your screen here, got the initial good rush to the outside on Jonta Woodward right there. Remember a couple of spin moves ago, Jonta Woodward let him inside, let Willis inside. That time he tried to hold the inside stronger, and Malik Jackson got to the outside, and Willis and him raced to the quarterback.
So Jackson has a pair of sacks. Willis has 2. Stamps have 5. 2nd and 17. From the end zone again, and look out. This one intercepted. Brandon Browner. Touchdown Calgary. Their 3rd defensive touchdown of the night. Too much pressure and too many turnovers.
And Kerry Joseph has taken too many hits.
And it's a stampede.
One-on-one action on the outside. Joseph has time to throw it. Needs to put air under this one. I think he thought Reggie McNeil was going to stop, and it was going to be the throw behind that we've seen many, many times. But
mentioned earlier that Brandon Browner had a interception for a touchdown against Toronto 2 years ago. Carpenter had his first CFL touchdown tonight, and so did Dwight Anderson.
Time count violation, Calgary number 12.
Kerry Joseph's over there just cleaning blood off his arm, and
newcomer Tom Johnson was not on the field. They went from 13 men to 11 as somebody was missing on the convert team, and Mr. Browner's enjoying the night.
Different looks on the faces of the Stampeders after this one than was after their first 2.
Getting their mojo back.
Well, after a while, after you're taking a bunch of hits and a lot of pressure, Kerry Joseph had some pressure again, takes another hit again from Tom Johnson, but it wasn't the hit that caused the problem. It was just a communication issue. Brandon Browner just waits. 3rd score on defense. I was a little surprised, really, Chris, that Kerry Joseph was even in the game with under 3 minutes to go, and this one out of reach. and the beating that he has taken. But this is a new offense for Toronto. I guess Bart Andrews just wanted to keep getting him some reps. But
So they give up 30 points in a half a quarter last week against Saskatchewan, and 31 points in the second half. 13-9 at the half. Bart Andrews' team looked like they were right in it. And the rout is on, and has been for most of the fourth quarter.
he looks a little dazed. The hits he's taken.
There's McNeil on the return. The Argos audition return men still looking.
I got to run this tape now. Can I run this tape?
Yeah.
I jumped the gun a second ago. I want to run this tape. Go.
Time for the TSN Friday Night Gladiator.
Yeah, and it was honorable mention to Odell Willis, but no question tonight who takes it. Dwayne Carpenter was great on the teams, made the play of the game and the turning point of the game. So Dwayne Carpenter, because it's retro weekend, is our Spartacus of the night. Friday night Spartacus.
For Calgary Stampeder fans, that was worth the second look. A little more bookkeeping from Murray Clark. The referee's scorecard is just about full. Just catching up. I think we're ready to whistle play in. With 87 seconds left on the clock. Kerry Joseph still in the game. Dumps it off, Brian Crawford. And another penalty marker on the play as Crawford out to the 40. Would have a first down. Friday Night Gladiator brought to you by Movado. The Movado 800 series is all about the art of performance where serious sports function meets power design. And tonight's Gladiator will also receive that Movado Series 800 watch.
Players are getting pumped up about this now. You talk to them at press conferences and they go, you know, it's Friday night. And everyone gets fired up about Friday. Yeah, we need to win, no question, but it's also Friday night. And you know what that means.
He didn't have to lobby either.
No, he did not. He went about his business.
First down, and that ball gunned in there.
The presentation, by the way, is on tsn.ca. When we, after games, go and present the watch to the Spartacus this weekend, Gladiator every other one, we tape all of that and put it on the website. It's quite interesting, the reaction of the players as they see the presentation and who gets it.
Jared Payton with that catch, and I know somebody who logged on and said, boy, those guys get excited about the watch. Catch is made by Crawford again up near the 50-yard line. Close to a first down in the final minute now. So the Argos will be 1-2. They get set for back-to-back against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they go back into the Eastern Division after consecutive losses against the West. Argos won only one game against a Western team last year.
And that's a big game Saturday in the doubleheader for Hamilton and Winnipeg now with the Argos dropping one. And Montreal plays Saskatchewan before that. See how they do. They look real good out of the gate, but that's some kind of matchup.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, it's week 3, but that's pretty good.
2-0. And what I like about that matchup more than anything is when you get to see the Rider defense that has really come in and surprised everyone and played tremendous football against Anthony Calvillo and the hottest offense in the league. That's a matchup you just gotta love.
And 2 touchdown passes away from matching Ron Lancaster, and he's at Mosaic
on retro weekend.
I'm sure that's not a storyline they're eagerly anticipating in Regina, but we're looking forward to that game.
You know what else was invented in the 60s? The Caesar.
The Caesar, right here in Calgary.
That's right. Caesar was invented in the 60s. One of the favorite inventions, I think I can go back.
So those are your two highlights of the 60s, the mini skirt and the Caesar.
What did I? That was my outside voice. Oops.
Joseph steps up. Anybody home? Malik Jackson separates. It's another turnover, and Dwayne Carpenter thinking about more points. Marker down on the play. 25 seconds left, and this defense has made a lot of noise here in the second half.
I'm not sure if he knew he had to watch, that he already had it.
Major foul piling on. Toronto number 65, 15-yard penalty, first down Calgary.
But in all seriousness, having Kerry Joseph out there at the end is, that's why.
Yeah, he's taken too much punishment already tonight.
And this just adds to it. Now he's on his knees over there and has to get some treatment. I mean, game's out of reach here. And
yeah, that might be the best second guess of the night.
He takes a hit here, gets run over again. So
and so now the Stampeders will run it out. BC, Edmonton, Calgary all at 1-2. Argos will be 1-2. And after tomorrow, there will be only one team without a blemish in their record. Either Montreal or Saskatchewan. One or the other will be the only unbeaten team in the CFL.
can't get to Regina fast enough for that matchup.
Knee down, and this one is in the books. It was close to the final play of the third quarter. And then the Calgary Stampeders pulled away. 3 touchdowns on defense and a convincing 44-9 win. The losing streak over for John Hufnagel. And both teams are 1-2. 44-9 the final. So long from McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Sports Center next.